Robert, we were just talking about debt. Now, most people are afraid to get into investing in real estate, mainly, I think, because they're afraid of debt, but you feel the opposite. You love debt, right?
Right, and you shouldn't be afraid of debt if you have no financial education, no experience, which you guys are providing people, the context, the people. Real estate is pretty much management intensive, a finance intensive investment. So you've got to be smart, you've got to have experience, you've got to have good people around you. But one of the advantages of real estate is debt and taxes. You see, the banks right now are giving away real estate at what, 4%, 3%?
Yes.
Well, you got to be kidding me. When I was your age, they were like 18%. Try making a deal work at 18%. That's tough. So these idiots out there can't make a deal work at 6%, 5%. You got to be crazy. And you know what? Those interest rates are going to go up because they have to go up. So these people are waiting for something to turn. Well, it already turned. It's real estate. So the beautiful thing about real estate, you use OPM, other people's money, your banker's money. Your bankers want to lend you money for real estate. They don't want to lend you money for your business, but they'll lend you money for real estate. There's a reason for that. So you should find out. That's why they should come and talk to you guys why bankers like debt. On top of the debt is tax-free money. I am doing my best to borrow as much money as possible. Last year I borrowed $2 million, tax-free. How I got that money is exactly why Susie Orman says don't do, whatever Dave Ramsey says don't do, I do. Because I'm trained different than them.
Did you just quote Susie Orman? Well,
yeah.
He said, I love it.
They're different. They're different people. I love real estate. But I love real estate because bankers will give me millions of dollars. They don't give me millions of dollars for anything else. They won't lend me that much for my business. They'll give me millions for my real estate. On top of that, the tax department gives me tax breaks. It's called, depreciation. So I don't get it. Why are people so afraid? Well, what they're afraid of is incompetence. They lack the education. They don't have good guidance. They don't have good mentors. Because real estate is primarily a finance and management proposition. You've got to be an entrepreneur. So the more debt I have, the higher my return on investment. And since it's other people's money, let's say I'm making $100, but I borrowed $10 from the bank, what's my ROI? Well, it's infinite because it's not my money.
Yes.
See, a pure capitalist is trained to know to use other people's time and talents. They're called employees. And other people's money is called my banker's money. So the reason I don't work and the reason I make so much money, I don't get tax breaks, is because I use other people's time and talents and other people's money. That's what capitalists do. If you're a socialist or a communist, you pay high taxes and they shouldn't give you any loans anyway. So anyway, that's kind of my philosophy on life. And if you're paying too much in taxes, it's because you might be a communist or a socialist. You better start changing economic philosophy. I'm only kidding you guys here. I'm doing my best to get you off ground zero and let you know that this is the best time to get rich. I've never seen interest rates so low. And everybody's saying, get out of debt. You got to be nuts. There's good debt and bad debt. Bad debt makes you poor. Good debt makes you rich. But it takes financial education, something not done in our schools, is why we have presidents and senators and congressmen, why we have a financial crisis, is because we have highly educated idiots running this country.
Back around 2003, I had a mentor that taught me, or that told me, he said, Will, eventually credit will become the new dollar. Of course, I didn't know what he meant by that at the time. Moved to Las Vegas. I quickly found out what he meant by that. Couldn't buy a car, couldn't rent an apartment, all the things that we needed to leverage our credit for, I couldn't access because my credit was in such shambles that if they would have ran my credit to get a library card, I probably would have got denied. And so, but one of the things that I learned, it's a wealth principle that successful business owners have been using for years. And it's something called the power of leverage. And leverage basically just means we're going to be utilizing something to help position us, help to put us in a better situation. And in this instance, I'm going to show you how to leverage your credit in order to get access to what I call OPM, other people's money, or as my partner Jay Morrison calls TB, the bank's money. And so understanding that most successful and wealthy business owners don't use their own money. And that was one of the very first things that I learned as an entrepreneur. Back around 2003, like I mentioned, my mentor telling me about the credit becoming the new dollar. I actually got involved with a couple different, home-based businesses. But one of the things that I learned from the home-based business industry was about personal development. Personal development is really one of the other things that helped me to excel in business. Because as we mentioned in some of my previous videos, so hopefully you guys have already subscribed and seen some of the other videos, is that, your mindset is 70 to 80% of what makes you successful. Your mindset is really what's going to separate you. Only 20 to 25% is talent. So, being new to being an entrepreneur, first I had to get my mindset right. They say you want to work harder on yourself than you do on your business. So I made it my goal to go out there and work hard on myself, my mindset. They say iron sharpens iron. So I wanted to hang around successful individuals. And one of the, recurring themes that I kept hearing was this word called leverage. And I didn't know what it meant at the time. But again, I just continued to network and build relationships and reach out to mentors. I would contact someone who I deemed that I could, extract some value out of, or someone who I would look at as a mentor. And what I would used to do, and I'm about to give you guys some game right here. How I built a lot of relationship with the mentors across the country is I would reach out to them and I would offer to take them to lunch, especially if they were local. I would say, hey, I know you're busy, but I know you got to eat. Let me take you to lunch just so I can pick your brain for a few minutes. And of course, I'm going to, pay for the lunch or whatnot, or I would offer my services as an intern, because trust me, every growing business could use additional help. So I would intern, meaning I'm not looking for pay. I wanted to learn the information. They said information is what separates successful from unsuccessful. And then, of course, applying the information that I was able to learn. So I reached out to various mentors locally across the country and different things like that. And again, like I said, everything just kept coming back to this powerful word called leverage. Leverage is like a seesaw. It's going to tip whichever way the scales are going to go, or whichever way the weight is going to go. And so when you have all the weight and having a strong credit profile, you're able to position yourself to leverage even more. And that's one of the things that, I really took away from, my different mentors, understanding that it doesn't take a lot of money to start a business. Let me give you guys some stats. So did you know 82%? You guys notice a lot of stats are in the 80s, which means it must be true. So 82% of small businesses started their business utilizing credit cards. 82% of small businesses use their business starting by using credit cards. You may say, well, how can you run a business off credit cards? Well, the main reason people do this is because getting revolving credit is unsecured, uncollateralized, meaning you don't have to provide financials. You don't have to provide all of the documents and your firstborn child and your blood type, because when you're going out there to get a business loan, I challenge you right now, walk in a bank right now and try to get a business loan and see how quickly they escort you out the back door or the front door or the fire escape door. Banks don't give business loans to small businesses, and trying to get access to an SBA loan, good luck. 2% of them qualify. It's a grueling 8 to 9 month process. And then you have to be 25% liquid of the dollar amount you're trying to ask for. So if you're trying to borrow $100,000 in an SBA loan, you got to have $25,000 liquid. Now, again, I'm not a mathematician, but if you don't have the if you don't have a $1,000 credit card, what makes them think you're going to have 25,000? So really just understanding that I can go out there and start my business with a revolving credit card. Now, did you know most small businesses can be started with the budget of $1,000 to $5,000? What could additional $5,000 do for you right now to jumpstart your business? Help you at least with your marketing plan, get your LLC set up, all the things that you're going to need in order to position your credit to be able to leverage it, to be able to go out there and get access to the revolving credit that is out there, that's unsecured and uncollateralized. So now this statistic gets even more interesting. Out of that 82% who started their business on the revolving credit lines, The average credit card line of $1,000 yielded an additional $5,000 in revenue. $1,000 credit line yielded an additional $5,000.
I go by Hertzberger's to get some furniture. You got 3 rooms for $298. That's what it say on the radio. 3 rooms, $298. He made up a little song about it. Get down there, man, tell me I can't get no credit. I'm working every day, can't get no credit.
You can't get a loan. You can't own a home. You can't start a business.
Mr. Garrett, you have been warned.
Which means you can't build wealth.
Mr. Garrett!
And you're excluded from the American dream.
Sergeant at Arms, remove the witness.
Why is it so important to you to exclude an entire... You can't get a...
And they're turned down.
Right.
And they're in the process of closing and they can't get the house. And so they come to me desperately to make things happen for them.
And listen, that's, as they stated earlier, I'm an advocate of, financial investing, making sure my credit is where it needs to be. I check it all, like almost every other month, to be honest with you. And I think that kind of keeps me ahead of the ball. Why do you think, and I noticed this, when I go to different zip codes, right? I noticed that in our African-American communities, the zip codes there, the scores are substantially lower. Why is that?
So they do demographics based upon certain zip codes and where you live at, and whether and creditors do it and decide on whether to actually give you credit, because if you're in the area that you live in, the majority of people are not paying or pay late, then there's likely, even if your score is high enough, that they may not give you the credit.
So just based off where you live, could have a bearing on if you're being issued credit or a certain type of, I guess, interest rate or APR.
Yes, it is a factor.
Oh my God, that's unfair.
It is unfair. But creditors need this model to actually decide on what's going on in that community and whether people in that community will actually pay. It's not fair. It's not.
It's really not, because
it is.
I was going to go there, but let me.
Okay.
It's a form of racial animus perpetrated against our people. They've devised an actual culture of keeping us impoverished. Many of us have become so complacent with having bad credit or not even knowing how to build a credit profile that because we've learned how to pay our bills month to month or manage to stay alive, we don't even care to fix it. We've become complacent with the fact like, hey, I got bad credit, so you know what? It is what it is. I want you all to get out of that mentality. You hear what I'm saying? I need you all to get out of that mentality. That's what I want. And the reason why I want you all to get out of that mentality is because I'm just down on you talking to 2 different strings. The reason why I want you to get out of that mentality is because it's holding back our whole race. Everybody else is using electricity to survive, and we are still looking to use paper money or save up every paper dollar to embark upon the acquisition of big ideas. So much so we never get a chance to actually engage these big ideas simply because it's a long route. And how you gonna win a race when we know currency in the form of paper is slower than currency in the form of electricity? We have to fix that credit. And so we have to learn the nuances of the credit system. But don't worry, when we do the course, we won't spend that much time telling you about the history of credit or TransUnion and Equifax and all of it. But we do have to learn the history of it so we can understand the nature of the beast that is up against us. So we do have to do that. But understand this, great credit will change your whole world. The goal is to get everybody in that class to get to the point of next gen. Next gen is the highest credit score you can get. Okay, we talking 900. The goal is to get you to next gen. All right, I always look at it like the next generation will benefit. Yes, the next generation can benefit from your credit. We will be teaching you that the next generation can actually benefit from your credit. That's extremely important to the cause. And I'm going to tell you why it's important to the cause. It's extremely important to the cause, primarily because We are in a debt wealth society. So in order to build credit, you have to go into debt. If you want to go to school to strive or transcend the conventional jobs that most people get without the high school diploma, or with the high school diploma, I should say, then what you normally have to do is go into debt for student loan. If you want to drive to work or drive to school and you buy this car, chances are you're going to get a car note. And that's another form of debt. Of course, the word note, hence the term note. If you want to build credit, you have to do what? You have to go into debt. The quickest way to build credit is to go into debt. So now this is a game of Russian roulette, because for us to survive, we need an education. In order for us to survive, we need shelter. And most times, in order for us to go to work, we need to be able to drive. So if I want to get a car, I got to go into debt. Hence the car note. If I need a school education to strive for excellence, I got to have a student loan debt obligation. There we go again. If I want to get a home, I have to go into a mortgage. Mortuary. Mort means death. Gage means pledge. So I'm pledging to pay something until I die. It's a pledge until you die. I have to go into debt. If I need a house, I have to go into debt. If I need to go to school, I have to go to debt. If I need a car, home, or education, I have to go into debt. And damn it, if I have to build credit, guess what? I have to go into debt. The quickest way to build credit is to go into debt. So let's recap what we just realized here. This is a debt wealth society. This is why you have to learn the nuances of credit. Because if I want an education, I have to go into student loan debt. And we all need an education. And if I want to get a home, that is to say shelter, I have to get into debt by way of the mortgage. Mortuary, mort means death, gage means pledge. I have to make a pledge that I'll pay something almost to the point when I'll die. In fact, I'm most likely going to die before that debt is paid. So I have to go into debt for the home, I have to go into debt for the school, and I have to go into debt for the car. And if I want to build credit, I have to go into debt in order to build credit. What have we learned here? That this is a debt wealth society. And the only way to the momentum of a debt wealth society is if we inherit wealth. And our children can inherit wealth in the form of our credit. And that sounds nuts. And that's what we have to discuss during the course of the sovereign course. And by sovereign, by no means do we mean you can hit somebody with a car and don't have to go to court for vehicular homicide. We're not talking about you throwing your birth certificate and your social security in the water, but we are talking about having some form of autonomy, some form of control in your life by way of economics. We're talking about economic sovereignty. That's what this sovereign workshop is about. Re-establishing a strong disposition where you don't have to pay. We did the health course and still doing it. Make sure you still can purchase the health course online. You'll get the replays in high def through past.
The best way to look at credit is an opportunity for you to invest now and to pay back later, right? So I tell people all the time, credit can take you places that your income, right, cannot, from your job or your. And what a lot of people don't understand is, in the business world, income is looked at what's left after your revenue and expenses, right? Some people refer to it as cash flow. But we think that income is just that check from our job. No, it's what you have left over after your expenses and everything is deducted. And if you are in a negative income or a negative cash flow status, credit can get you the capital you need if you are a smart investor, if you've done your due diligence, if you've done your research, if you have a financial education as much as you can acquire. Because I think our last live stream, people were saying things like, scared money doesn't make money. Well, neither does ignorant money, right? You can't, I mean, there are bad investments, there are good investments, but you have to do your due diligence, you have to do your research, right? And the reason why I like credit cards because it's unsecured or uncollateral capital, right? That you can use to invest in. And I don't think people get the point or the picture of that credit cards is non-collateral. And the advantage of at least having credit cards and how to use those credit cards or to flip those credit cards to invest. So I'll let you elaborate on that, Al.
Absolutely. Like she was mentioning, credit cards can be your best friend or they can be your worst nightmare. They can literally be your best friend or your worst nightmare. So learning how to use your credit cards properly, and this is only speaking from experience. I have been in both situations where when I first got my credit cards, I overutilized them. I had high credit utilization and it only penalized and hurt me. But then I smartened up and I said, man, this is a tool I can use to produce more income for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I paid down my credit cards and then I started to utilize my credit cards for other things that produce income for me, you know, starting different businesses and stuff like that. So take that to the heart. You're supposed to utilize those credit cards to produce revenue. You know, they're not really an emergency fund or something that you can just fall back on, or, you know, you can go and splurge for the weekend. That's not what a credit card is supposed to use for. You can leverage like 0% offers, and like most credit card companies today, like your big companies, your cities, your Chase Banks, your Wells Fargo's, Capital Ones, all your big banks are offering these promotional credit card offers, such as 0% for 12 months, 0% for 18 months. If you utilize that correctly, you can actually make money off of those cards.
Right.
I hope
and,
that
and credit cards are usually the only resources or assets, I think they're assets, that'll give you those 0% introductory rates. Correct. So, I mean, what we're doing is we're teaching people to leverage their credit to get the money from banks, the same amount of money that investors, big investors get, right? And so and I made a post today on my Facebook that said, your credit is not going anywhere. Your credit score is not going anywhere. It's going to be with you until you die. So you might as well, right, learn how to leverage your credit to live a better lifestyle. It's going to be with you until you die. Just point blank. Those 3 digits will remain with you until you die.
Absolutely. I was telling a friend that today, like, and I was explaining, and I'm gonna go into the purpose of, like I mentioned earlier, the topic of this discussion tonight. Credit cards it pays you to have good credit and to have credit cards. So, for example, I was telling my friend today, I was purchasing some items from the store, and I had the cash in my wallet, and I had my credit cards. And what I did was, I actually went in the store, and instead of paying with it for cash, I used my credit card. And he asked me, he said, man, why are you always charging everything to your American Express card? And I explained to him the purpose of, I said, the reason why I'm charging everything to this card is because the American Express, they pay me, they reward me for spending money on their card. Like,
Put your MS card. I just think it's sexy every time I see it.
huh?
I said, let's see your MS card again. I just think it's sexy
I will. I'm gonna have
every
to.
time I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get it. I'm gonna have to get
Okay.
it. So,
Black, is it black or the platinum?
yeah, it's the platinum.
Yeah, it's the platinum.
It's the platinum. It's the platinum card. So I'm explaining to him, like, as we're in the store and we're buying these items, I'm like, they reward me. They give me points. They give me these points that I can turn into like air miles. I can turn these points into physical cash. You know, I can turn these points into anything that pretty much rewards me for spending that dollar. So if I would have used my own personal money, let's say I would have spent my own personal $200 on this item, then guess what? I would have just spent my money, but there was nothing that I received for spending my money. But spending their money, I gained, I think, 2 points for every single dollar that I spent. So I had like 400 points that was added to my card that I can use, like I mentioned, for air travel. And these points add up so quickly because we never know how much money we're spending throughout the day and throughout the month. Like, we're spending a lot of money on gas, on groceries, on dining, on travel, on, just miscellaneous things that we're spending this money on. And by leveraging having the right credit cards for the right situations, you can literally be earning money from these banks, from these institutions that you can turn into cash, or you can use to take you and your wife or your significant other or your friends or your family members on vacations and stuff like that. I do it all the time.
I'm gonna tell you, having an 80 Paydex means nothing to a bank. 80% of banks don't even use DMB as a barometer to extend you credit. 80% of banks use Experian Business and Equifax Business. So understanding that, which is why this information in this course and this one-on-one coaching that we're giving people is so important. A lot of people have been, as I call it, hustling backwards. You're focusing on an area that has nothing to do with helping you get in position of getting the bank's money. So we're going to show you how to build up your Experian business, your Equifax business. A lot of people have never heard of SBFE, which stands for Small Business Financial Exchange, but even banks pull that. There are certain banks that only pull SBFE. So in understanding that, once you understand how the power of leveraging your personal credit, coupling it with the business credit profile, the business credit structure, understanding what we have to attack in order to be able to be compliant with the banks, then all it's going to do is position you to be able to go out there and get the bank's money. Now, I'm going to end with, this, because a lot of times people say, well, I'd rather have a business loan, not credit revolving lines. And I'm going to help you dispel that mindset, that way of thinking, because again, we already know how difficult it is to get an actual loan. It can be a little bit difficult, mainly because you have to collateralize everything. But when the money is unsecured, it's low documentation, very little paperwork revolved, and the income is stated. So you're able to put your income projection for your business, even though your company hasn't made any money yet. Again, this is high level information. So I hope you guys wrote that down. So the difference with a business loan versus having access to revolving credit. Now, even more importantly, even if the revolving credit was personal and business, I'm fine with that. Because again, the name of the game is to leverage. I just want to leverage the bank's money. I don't care if it's a personal card, a business card, because the thing that I'm more worried about is not using my own money, because I'm going to leverage that money. And I know I have a strategy to recoup my return on my investment. That's really the focus here. Okay. So with a business loan, let's say you get $50,000 business loan. Okay. This is why I don't like business loans, at least at the onset. Okay. Now, if you're a brand new business, you may not have a proof of concept of how you're going to recoup the money that you borrowed. So you borrow $50,000. Guess what? From after day one, you're going to have to start paying that money back right away. And your company may not even be making any money. So now you're dipping into your own personal money to pay back some money against the money you just went and borrowed for a business that you're not even sure you're going to like in 2 to 3 months. Okay. Now, let's just say out of that 50,000, you only needed to borrow 10,000, to secure a building. But guess what? You still got to pay back against the entire 50 because they cut you one check for $50,000. So out of that $10,000, again, you're paying back the entire 50. Now, let's say you go out there and you crush it after you borrowed the 50,000 and you're able to pay that money back in about 3 to 5 years. Guess what? You're starting at ground zero. So now you don't have any money again. Think about it. Most small businesses don't turn a profit right away. So all you did was just repay the money back. And now guess what? You got to go out there and try to do that again. And hopefully the bank didn't change their lending criteria. And then more importantly, usually when the money is a loan, they cap it maybe 5 to 7 years, which means you're normally going to have a higher payment. Now, I'm not against loans by any means. I just personally think, and this is what wealthy people think, or what wealthy people do, I should say, they go after revolving credit. This is how you position yourself to where you become the bank. Again, I'm going to use the bank's money, so why not position myself to be a bank? A couple different reasons why I'm going to always go after revolving credit. Let's say, again, you get access to 50,000 of revolving credit. Again, I don't care if it's personal or business, because my goal is to leverage it no matter what. Okay. Now, let's say the cool thing about the revolving credit is that it can sit there. I may not even be ready for business, but one of the things that I always tell my clients, I'd rather be in position and have the money and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I will definitely go out there, position myself and at least get access to the capital. So you have $50,000, and because you don't need it right this very minute, guess what? You're not paying back against anything. When I first started learning this principle, my first wave of funding, I was able to get access to about $49,000 worth of credit. And guess what? I sat on it for about 9 months. So essentially, I wasn't repaying against anything. Now, out of that $50,000, let's say you only need $10,000 of it. Guess what? You're only paying back against $10,000, not the entire 50. That blew me away because now I can mitigate and minimize my expenses, because generally on revolving credit, your repayment is usually only 1 to 2% of the balance. So I can call up the bank and say, hey, I need $10,000 of my $50,000. What is that going to cost me per month? So now I can already factor that into my monthly expenses. And that way I can figure out a budget. Keep in mind, in business, having a budget is extremely important. You need to be able to know where every single dollar is going. Now, let's say you go out there, you borrow and use the entire 50 of your revolving credit, and you go out there, make a couple deals, and you crush it, and you pay that money back. Guess what just happened? You're back. You have $50,000 at your disposal again. Again, that's the beauty of when the money is revolving. As I pay into the principal, it's available again. Think about it like this. When you go to the bank, you borrow money you deposit your money to the bank, and the bank does what? They go out and they invest it. So as their funds get low because of all the investing that they've done, the money they've loaned out, how do they recoup that money? By us depositing our paychecks and doing different things and opening bank accounts and doing all of that. So essentially, we, the consumers, are the bank's revolving line of credit. All I'm doing is showing you guys how to be on the other side of the spectrum to where now you can be the bank. You control the revolving money. Okay. So now